The 12 Doctors of Christmas. Third Doctor. The Christmas Inversion. Help us. Please, Doctor, help us. Joe looked frantically around the TARDIS control room. Where was the voice coming from? It was a female voice, and sounded calm, despite the panic her words implied. But it wasn't a voice that Joe recognized. She ran to the main doors and called into the doctor's workshop. "Doctor, hurry, please!" The doctor appeared, followed by a young man in a khaki uniform with three pips on each shoulder. The uniformed man was carrying a bizarre device. Well, Joe assumed it was a device of a sort, rather than just a few armfuls of assorted junk. There were spoons involved, and coils of wire, and half a transistor radio, and, strangest of all, a tennis racket that had definitely seen better days. "Just over there, Mike," the doctor said, gesturing to the floor by the central control console. Captain Mike Yates did as he was told, then turned away with a cheery wave. "Catch you later," he said. "Don't want to be dragged off to visit the dinosaurs of Tutankhamun or something." "Nice boy, Tutankhamun," said the doctor. "Didn't like it if I beat him at Senate, though." Mike shot a look at Joe as he exited, and she giggled, but the doctor called her attention back to the problem at hand. "Any change?" he asked. She shook her head. "She's still saying the same thing over and over again, but I think I've made out a few more words. She says request at one point and desperate." The doctor unspooled wire from either end of his device, attaching one end to the scanner screen high on one wall, and the other to a control panel. "Let's see if we can get a clearer signal." The spoons started to vibrate, clattering against each other. The tennis racket began to swing backwards and forwards like a metronome. A picture formed on the scanner. It showed a woman, middle-aged, serious. There was a Christmas tree behind her. As the picture became clearer, so did her words. "I have one request, Doctor. If you're out there, we need you. I don't know what to do. If you can hear me, Doctor. If anyone knows the Doctor. If anyone can find him. The situation has never been more desperate. Help us. Please, Doctor, help us." The doctor and Joe watched in silence until the message began to repeat. "I have one request." "We have to help her," said Joe. "Unless—" she paused. "What if it's the Master? What if he's gone into the future and hypnotized this woman to send an appeal into the ether to lure you into a terrible trap?" "I don't think so, Joe," said the doctor. "I can feel a connection, something that's linking her to me. Something from my future, or my past." "If it's from your past, you'd remember it, wouldn't you?" "Not necessarily. Apparently I got caught up in that Omega business twice before." He patted his machine. "Anyway, we're going to follow the transmission and find out what this is all about. Preparing to follow now." The doctor threw a switch, and at exactly the same moment, Mike Yates came back through the TARDIS doors holding out a spoon. "Doctor, I think this must have dropped off." His words trailed off as he watched the central column rise and fall, while the doors slammed shut of their own accord behind him. "Your machine," he finished. "Ah," said the doctor. "Mike, how do you feel about a little visit to the early 21st century?" By the look on Mike's face, Joe was fairly certain it wasn't a prospect he relished. A few moments later, the TARDIS landed. The doctor operated the door controls, then staggered slightly. "Doctor, are you all right?" Joe ran to his side. A thread of gold drifted from his fingers, an airy, insubstantial spider's web, winding its way through the opening doors. "Energy," he gasped. "Time Lord energy." "The Master!" cried Joe. "It must be the Master. He's draining your energy so you'll be weakened when he hands the Earth over to some hideous aliens who want to enslave all of humanity." The doctor managed to shake his head weakly. "No, it's me," he said. "A future version of me is here, somewhere, and he needs regenerative energy. He's taking it from me. Strong to weak. Energy osmosis." The golden thread dissolved, and the doctor stood up straight. "It's over," he said. I have what was needed." He broke off as a blonde woman threw through the TARDIS doors. She stopped, stood stock still, mouth open wide, words frozen on her lips. The carrier bags she was holding dropped unheeded to the floor, tins of food spilling everywhere. "Who are you?" she screeched. "I, madam, am the doctor." "Oh, my God, you've done it again," she said. Then she took in Joe and Mike. "And you've done it to them too. Oh, Rose, Rose, my precious baby. He's changed your face as well." Joe stared, not knowing what to say. "I'm not—" she began, but the woman wasn't listening. "At least you've kept your hair cut the right colour. Might even be a bit prettier. Let me look at you. Yes, I like the nose. But you—" she turned to Mike. "Mickey, what has he done to you?" I prefer Mike." "Oh, you've changed that too, have you?" "Well, Mickey, Mike, it's the same thing." Don't you go giving yourself airs and graces just because you've been raiding the dressing up box. What are you supposed to be anyway? A general or something? Once more she moved on before Mike had finished saying, a captain, actually. The woman took hold of the sleeve of the doctor's velvet jacket. And talking of dress-up, what have you done with Howard's dressing gown? You'll have to buy him a new one if you've lost it, you know. The doctor shook himself free. Unhand me, madam. It was a good one, too. Marks and sparks. Not down from the market. She folded her arms and sniffed dismissively. And what's all this madam business? This is me, Jackie Tyler, not the Queen of England. Joe had been thinking. You didn't say it, she said. Say what? Jackie fired back. That is bigger on the inside than the outside. You didn't even look surprised. The woman, Jackie, threw up her hands. Well, I was only in here with you all, 2 minutes ago? Then her face fell. She stared pleadingly at Joe. Oh no, is this one of those things? Like when you thought you'd been gone a day, but it was a year for me. Has it been 2 minutes for me and, I don't know, 2 months for you? Or 2 years? Or 20 years? Something like that, said Mike, looking at Joe rather than Jackie, his eyes clearly saying, I don't know what's going on here, so we'd better humour her. It's been ages, hasn't it? I mean, you've had time to redecorate. Jackie looked around. I like it. You'll never be short of washing up bowls again. And you've got a new telly, too. If you can hear me, Doctor. If anyone knows the Doctor, if anyone can find him. Does he get free view, or have you got a set-up box? Do you know who this is? Joe asked, pointing at the woman on the monitor. What? This facelift thingy thing wiped your memory, too? That's Harriet Jones, Prime Minister. You helped her save the world, bring about Britain's golden age, you know, her. Golden age, echoed Mike. Sounds good. Well, it was good until this happened. The spaceship and all the people up on the roof ready to jump. She gestured behind her to the world outside the TARDIS. The doctor walked past her, out of the doors. The others followed. All four gazed up. A tower block. A hive of balconies and broken windows. Yes, every single window was broken. How odd. Concrete grime decorated occasionally with garlands of tinsel. Then higher up to the roof. Look at all those people, gasped Joe. What are they doing? Scores of people were standing on the roof, at the very edge, faces blank. They stared ahead like robots, seemingly unaware that death waited only a single step in front of them. Well, no one knows, Jackie replied. It just happened, like they've been hypnotized. Hypnotized, said Joe. Doctor, this has to be the work of the... The doctor waved her to silence. Keep looking up, Joe. She did. Above them, almost like a roof, was a strange, rocky shape, more alien than anything she'd ever seen. First there was the creature on the telly. They said it was a hoax, but then they always say that, don't they? Like when the pig flew into Big Ben, then this turned up. Jackie folded her arms disapprovingly, unimpressed with the cheek of the alien visitors. It's an asteroid, said the doctor. An asteroid with engines. A masterful piece of engineering. Masterful? It's just an expression, Joe. Anyway, now you're awake again, you can sort it all out, can't you? Said Jackie. Awake again? The doctor muttered under his breath, so quietly only Joe heard him. Regeneration crisis, perhaps? Yes, that would make sense. Then louder. We need to find this woman, this Harriet Jones. Well, there's Downing Street, said Jackie. Or maybe Unit HQ. The other three stared at her. What? She asked. You know about Unit? Said Mike. Jackie rolled her eyes. What is it with you? You know I do. She paused for a moment, then said in almost a shriek. You're not them, are you? You're something else. Slitheen or something. Oh my god, you're going to unzip yourselves any moment. I've certainly got no plans to unzip myself, Mike began, but Jackie was already off and running past graffitied walls and up a concrete staircase until she vanished through a door. Number 48, said Joe, noting which door she entered. Come on, we'd better follow her, said the doctor. It would have been easy to get inside flat 48 with its broken windows, but the doctor knocked on the door instead. Go away, came a shout from the other side, the doctor's side, and bent to the letterbox. I assure you that we are not Slitheen, whatever they are, he called through, and I am most definitely the doctor. Prove it. How many hearts have you got? 2. Well, anyone can say that. The front door opened slightly, a security chain holding the gap at only a few inches. A hand crept out, holding the business end of a stethoscope. The doctor looked extremely indignant, but Joe made go-on gestures until he gave in and stood close enough for Jackie to hold the stethoscope against his chest. She placed it on one side of his ruffled shirt, then the other. The stethoscope was withdrawn. Satisfied? Said the doctor impatiently. In answer, the chain was removed and the door fully opened. All right, you can come in, but if I see a hint of a zip being pulled, I'm out of here. The 3 time travellers followed Jackie inside. The first thing any of them noticed was a large Christmas tree-shaped hole in one of the internal doors. Don't know what the council are going to say about that, Jackie said. They've got out of fixing Sandra's bathroom because they say she did it herself, but I don't think the sink can have properly been fixed to the wall. I mean, it should have been able to take the weight of one woman trying to fix a shower curtain, even if she was thrown out of Slimming World using Kit Kat fingers to scoop up the low-fat hummus. Joe nodded. It seemed earnest. We need to find the location of the Prime Minister, said the doctor. If we can find out what's going on, we may be able to help those people up there. Well, go on and do one of your special secret searches on the computer, Mickey, said Jackie. You know where it is. She gestured vaguely toward a door, and Mike took the cue and went through. A few moments later, he came out again. I can't see a computer in there, he said. What? Jackie sounded indignant. I don't believe it. Has someone nicked the laptop? Oh, honestly, you have to bolt things down or they walk. Let me see. Hang on, what are you talking about? There it is. Jackie was pointing at a flat silver object on the table. She went over to it and opened it up. That tiny thing is a computer, said Mike, stunned. I thought it was one of those new sandwich toaster things. Where's the rest of it? What rest of it? Jackie dropped into a chair suddenly, as though someone had punched her in the stomach. You're not them, are you? You're not Mickey, and that's not my Rose. Joe pulled out another chair and sat down. She shook her head. No, I'm not Rose. My name's Joe Grant, but this really is the doctor. So, Jackie turned to the doctor, her face haunted. So what's happened to her? What's happened to my Rose? Did you get rid of her? Trade her in for a new model? Or is she? Tears welled. The doctor huffed. I've never known a Rose, he began, but Jackie didn't take that well. You've forgotten already, Jackie said, furious. How dare you, after all she did for you, going back to certain death to save you? If she went to certain death, this stands to reason. Joe shot her a fierce look at the doctor, who actually got the message for once and stopped talking. Joe leaned forward and put her arm around Jackie's shoulder. It's not anything like that. Look, let's make everyone a nice cup of tea and I'll try to explain. They went out to the kitchen, and Joe continued as Jackie put the kettle on. You see, I don't think the doctor's met your Rose yet. What? You know he can time travel, right? Yes, I know. But every time I see my Rose, it's a bit later. I thought he'd always turn up in order, you know? Then she looked haunted again. No, she told me earlier. She told me she'd been back to see her dad. That I'd even seen her then, not knowing who she was. So she could go back to her own past. I suppose the doctor can come forwards from his. Joe nodded. That's right. So if my Rose is with the doctor in the future, yes? What's happened to you? Where did you go? Joe's mouth dropped open as the truth of her words hit home, and she said at Jackie, horrified. I mean, it's bad enough knowing your daughter's dropped everything to be with some spaceman, but I thought she was his first. I didn't know he'd made a habit of dragging girls off into his machine. How many does he get through? Does he get tired of them, dump them on some planet somewhere, or do they get zapped and he has to get a replacement? How many have there been between you and Rose? How many has there been before you? I don't know, Joe stuttered. Her mind raced to the TARDIS, both spaceship and sanctuary. Was it also a Bluebeard's chamber, where the mementos should stumble across now and then? A hair slide, a red cap, a mascara wand, the last remaining traces of unnamed women who'd once accepted a ride into time and space with the Doctor? Joe shivered. Joe, come on, look at this bizarre mistletoe. She welcomed the interruption and almost ran out of the kitchen. There was Mike Yates, a grin on his face, and a sprig of mistletoe in his hand. It's got blueberries, he said incredulously. He held it up for Joe to see. Most unusual, the doctor agreed, taking the sprig from Mike for a closer inspection. The smile faded from his lips. In front of Joe's eyes, his skin began to pale, his cheeks hollowed, his eyes seeming to bulge out of their sockets. The mistletoe was growing, tendrils crawling down his arm. Doctor! Joe yelled, as she tried to pull the leafy stems away from him. Stop, Joe. The more you pull, the tighter they'll hold on. What can we do? Asked Mike, helplessly, as the vines wrapped themselves around the doctor's neck. Mistletoe's a parasite, croaked the doctor. It takes nutrients from its host, sometimes fatally. Find alternative food source. Leave it to me. Jackie ran out of the kitchen. She had a Christmas pudding in one hand, and she lobbed it at the doctor. The contents of a bottle followed. And don't forget the brandy. The doctor sighed with relief as the mistletoe fell away, sating itself on the pudding and brandy instead. His cheeks plumped up, his skin pinkened. That's better, he said. Thank you. Murderous mistletoe, said Joe. That has work of the master written all over it. That's not what the other doctor said Jackie. It was something to do with fish and batteries, things attracted by your energy. They set booby traps. There's another one, yelled Joe, quickly moving away from a snowman ornament that had started to rock violently back and forth, its carrot nose flashing orange, as a version of the 12 Days of Christmas, slightly out of tune, blasted from its base. While Joe, Mike, and the doctor backed away, Jack went over and hit the snowman on its head. It stopped its gyrations and fell silent. No, it's just faulty, that's all, she said. Went off in the middle of the night the other day. I nearly had a fit. Never mind that now, said the doctor. My research on the computer suggests that UNIT has finally realised that having a big sign outside a building saying UNIT headquarters is perhaps not the best thing for a top-secret government organisation. They now have an HQ hidden under the Tower of London. Wow, said Mike. I wonder what the Brig would have to say about that. Sharing a home with the Crown Jewels? So that's our next stop. How do we get there? Flying car? Hoverboard? Personal transport? Number 78 bus, said Jackie. Hover bus? You'll be lucky if you get a double-decker. Mike sighed. So much for the future. I think a short hop by TARDIS might be better, said the doctor. Come on, Joe, Mike. Joe and Mike followed as instructed. To Joe's surprise, Jackie clearly intended to join them. Better than sitting around here worrying about my rose, she said. I'd rather feel I was doing something. They ventured out into the cold, into the TARDIS. Then out of the TARDIS in moments, they were within the grounds of the tower itself. There were people standing high on the roof of the fortress, a mix of tourists and uniformed officials, all close to the edge, still in danger. Joe's heart leaped into her mouth. A single step forwards was all that separated them, like the people on top of the block of flats, from falling to their deaths. The doctor looked around, orientating himself, then led them towards a beefeater standing near Traitor's Gate. Good afternoon, I'm the doctor, said the doctor. The beefeater sighed. Yes, of course you are. He made no attempt to move. I need to see the Prime Minister or whoever's in charge. Yeah, right. Yes, right, said the doctor firmly, producing his unit pass and waving it in front of the man's nose. The beefeater grabbed it. This expired 30 years ago, but I'll give you your due. It's better effort than most. What are you talking about, man? I demand you let us pass in this minute. Look, we usually get about 3 doctors a week. Since the Prime Minister's appeal on TV, we've had 7 of them today alone. Okay, I'm impressed. You've done your homework, you've found us. Not that I can either confirm or deny that what it is you found. And you know about this shadowy doctor bloke who might look like anyone. But right now we're in the middle of a crisis, and you're getting in the way, so just hop it, will you? Joe saw the fury rising in the doctor's eyes and jumped in. He really is the doctor, you know, she said. I'm his assistant, Joe Grant. I work for Unit 2. Yes, like I said, good effort. You've even got the window dressing right. They don't always bother bringing a girl with them, probably because most of them wouldn't know a girl if they tripped over one. Now it was Joe's turn to get indignant. Window dressing! Of all the chauvinistic... This time Mike stepped in to calm the storm. Now you can see I'm a unit officer. He indicated his khaki beret. Oh, come on, the beefeater replied. That's not even the right colour, and the badge is totally wrong, and you stink of brandy. Mike stared the man in the eye. I am Captain Mike Yates of the United Nations Intelligence Task Force. I am not drunk, and I demand... He broke off as the beefeater burst out laughing. You can't even get the name right. It's Unified Intelligence. And who are you supposed to be? The guard continued as Jackie stepped forwards. The Unit T lady. Listen, you, Jackie began, putting her hands on her hips. You might think you're a big shot, standing there in your little skirt and funny hat, but people's lives are in danger. Joe gave a gasp. That laugh! Yes, I know who this is. Doctor, it's the Master. That's why he won't let us in. Sorry, Joe, said the doctor. I think you're confusing Architect of Evil with Skeptical Jobsworth. Quite frankly, I'd rather deal with the Master. He turned back to the man and gestured up at the roofs and ramparts. Those are your colleagues up there. Friends, loved ones. You might be standing in the way of their only chance. You have to let me in. As he spoke, the people on the roof suddenly came back to life. Heads were shaken as they leaped back or were dragged away from the edge to safety. Oh, said the doctor, looking surprised. Well, that's good. There was a beeping from the beefeater's wrist, and he pulled back his sleeve to reveal a small monitor device. There, he said, waving at them. Proof that the Prime Minister's not here anyway, so you may as well make yourselves scarce. Jackie leaped forward and grabbed his wrist. Rose! There's my Rose with her. Hang on, that looks like Bloxham Road. She's only round the corner from home. And who's that dish with her? Gasped Joe, leaning over Jackie's shoulder. Jackie shot her a sideways look. That's the doctor. Come along, Joe, said the doctor as she stared at him in amazement, and, it has to be said, a small amount of wistfulness. The TARDIS landed back in Jackie's sitting room. Doctor, doctor! The plaintive call was coming from elsewhere in the flat. I know that voice, cried Joe. There was another sound too, beneath the voice. 2 turtle doves and a partridge in a pear tree. On the 11th day of Christmas, they followed the sounds. On the floor, tied up in tinsel, was a bearded man dressed in black. Behind him sat the dancing snowman, still belting out its tuneless carol. The Master! Gasped Joe. I knew it. He was behind it all. My dear Miss Grant, said the Master. I can assure you I'm not behind anything. Yes, I followed the doctor here. Yes, I planned to ally myself with the Sycorax and save Earth. But for the last hour I have been lying here, forced to listen to what must be by now the 1200 days of Christmas. The tinsel must be another booby trap too, said Mike. Because he's a Time Lord too, it must have activated when he got too near the Christmas tree. If you would release me from my bonds, I give you my word, I will leave without hurting either you or the people of this planet. You can't trust him, cried Joe. I think I can in this case, Joe. The doctor replied. I have to let him go, I think. He picked up the snowman and removed its battery. I think he suffered enough. Released, the master entered Jackie's kitchen. A giant pink American-style fridge vanished with a wheezing, groaning sound. Oh, that's a shame, said Jackie. I've always wanted one of those fridges. Anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you. I need to go and find Rose. The doctor held out a hand. I look forward to meeting you for the first time, he said. Jackie paused for a moment, then said, I can't ask him, the other you. But it's still you, so you understand him, don't you? Will you just leave her one day? Abandon her? The doctor shook his head solemnly. No, I can promise you that. It's not me who leaves them, not ever. Then he smiled. Anyway, if Rose was anything like her mother, I wouldn't dare. Jackie nodded, a quick, fierce nod of understanding. Thank you. So home then? Asked Mike eagerly, as Jackie hurried off and out of the flat. Yes, Mike, back to the TARDIS, said the doctor. Joe was staring out of the broken window. Maybe we should stay for a bit. There's still an alien spaceship to deal with. The large asteroid ship began to fly away. Well, said Joe, we need to make sure it doesn't come back. Much to their amazement, the ship suddenly exploded. We could just stay, Joe continued regardless, to see if Rose is all right and say hello to this other doctor. Joe! Exclaimed the doctor. All right, let's go, said Joe resignedly. They headed back into the TARDIS as the doctor set the controls. Joe said, Is that true? That you never leave them? I mean me. It's true, said the doctor. One day you'll fly the nest, Joe, but I'll never push you out of it. And Joe smiled, because that knowledge was the best Christmas present she'd ever received.